I am going to be recording this morning's webinar so that for the one or two students that could not join us this morning, they can listen to it later. And if you would like to rewatch it or any of the components, then you will have it available as well. Okay, let me go ahead and get started. I am going to share my screen. That's not the one. Bear with me, guys. Let me get to, all right, gotta share my screen. Boy, doing these webinars is a little harder than, it seems so easy when I attend them, but it's a little harder to actually do it. Here we go. If hopefully everyone can see my screen where it says University of California Personal Insight Questions. And if you cannot see it, please raise your hand or put it in chat and I will try to figure it out. Okay, so the reason you are here this morning, and thank you all for spending part of your Saturday morning with me, is because you are planning to apply to the University of California campuses. Whether it's one or all 9, the personal insight questions have to be written in order to complete the UC application. The personal insight questions are the UC's version of the personal statement that that you and I are working on separately using the WOW 10-step method. For those of you that haven't begun that process yet, you are scheduled to begin very, very shortly. So that is the personal statement for the Common App. The UCs do something quite different. They don't want the same, they want to know about you. They want introspective answers like the personal statement, but they're looking for information to be presented a bit differently. So that's why I'm holding this separate webinar to explain that process and what that's going to look like. So let me go ahead and move on to the next page. Here's what we're going to cover this morning. The good news is, by the way, this will not take 3 hours. I was overzealous in scheduling. I'm hoping to get you all out by 10:30. So let's I'll keep talking. Oh, and just as a reminder, if you do have any questions along the way, please put those in chat and I will respond as we go along if they're applicable to what I'm covering, or I may hold them till the end of the session. All right, so here's what we're going to go over today. Why personal insight questions? Why not a personal statement? I'm also going to be showing you what this year's personal insight questions, or PIQ for short, what the prompts actually are. And then I will be going through the best ways to present yourself through those personal insight questions. And then I'm going to share some pre-brainstorming tasks that will help you prepare for your and my UCPIQ brainstorming meeting a little bit later this summer, and then wrapping up with next steps. Okay, so why PIQ? Well, first off, the University of California application does not allow letters of recommendation. They also do not require a personal statement, as I said. So they're getting your courses, your grades, they're getting a list of your activities, and they don't even ask you for a transcript or a school report, which other universities do. So they have streamlined their application process so much to try to be as equitable as possible for as many students in California. as possible that they don't have a ton of information to go on. So the way that they are trying to elicit from you who you are, what's important to you, what you value, what characteristics do you have that you want to share with them, is through this method, through this process called the personal insight questions. The personal insight question prompts align with the UC's comprehensive review factors. The comprehensive review factors can actually be found on the UC application website. I've got a link a little bit in a subsequent slide that you can go look at your leisure. But basically, those comprehensive review factors are how UC application readers are trained, what they're looking for to determine whether they're going to admit, wait, or deny you. And then the UCs, through these personal insight questions, are looking for evidence that you'll be successful in college and beyond. Specifically, they want you to describe experiences that you've had to demonstrate one or more of the 5 traits that admissions officers love, which includes drive, your intensity towards your activities, what is your internal motivation, that your drive that reflects all of the time that you spend doing a particular activity. They're looking for your level of intellectual curiosity. Do you take classes because you find them interesting? Obviously, in high school, you have to take your core academics. You have a little bit of, leeway here and there in the different areas. You also, and so what does that look like for you? You also have the category G, or college prep electives. Are you taking college prep electives? And if so, which ones? And what do you do outside of the classroom? Pursue whatever it is that you are academically, intellectually interested in. Initiative, you know what that is. All of you have taken initiative by being here this morning. You've taken this step. No one's forced you to be here. I did say it was a mandatory meeting, but you could have just ignored that and not shown up. So you've taken the initiative to work toward your successful college application season. And so that's an example of what initiative looks like. What is your contribution? What is your contribution to your school, in the classroom, to your community, to your family, to your work, to whatever extracurricular activity you spend time doing? Definitely they want to know about that. And they would love to know about your different experiences, so they can see the range or the diversity that you spend time doing. Okay, so that is why the PIQ, that is the purpose of the PIQ. Okay, these are the actual prompts. There are 8 of them, and I have uploaded these prompts into your custom college plan. I've created, under File, I've created a folder called University UC PIQs, and one of the documents is the 2024-2025 PIQ prompt. So you'll find these 8. You don't have to write these down. You don't have to do anything other than just kind of speed read through them. And then I will come back to these in a bit, because it's important as you brainstorm. Obviously, it's very important whether it's the personal insight questions or any other college essay prompt that you'll be responding to, it's crucial that you answer the question. So I'm going to walk you through the 8 prompts in just a moment and help you identify within each of the 8 prompts what they're asking so that you don't miss, the important pieces. You know what, why don't I'm just going to do that now. So let's go ahead and go through each of these 8 prompts. Now, there are 8 prompts, but you only have to answer 4 of them in order to apply to the UC. So they give you this wide range of different directions you can go, and out of the 8, you only have to choose 4. What I recommend students do is brainstorm for all 8 and see what that looks like when you get it down on paper. What stories are you telling for each one, so that then you and I together can evaluate what are your strongest, the most meaningful, the meatiest stories that you indeed should share with the UC. Okay, the other thing that I want you to know is that these personal insight questions are relatively short. So for those of you that have begun working on your personal statement, you know that is about a 650-word essay. So about a page and a half-ish. The personal insight questions, the maximum word count is 350 words for each one. So you're talking a good 2.5 paragraphs. You have to make every word count. You don't have a lot of space to share your story. Okay, so with that, let's go through these prompts. I would encourage you to maybe pull out a pad of paper, be ready to type into a Word doc just so you can take notes on what I'm going to cover, again, so that you know what the most important component of each question is all about. All right, so number 1, describe an example of your leadership experience in which you have positively influenced others. Let me move our little menu bar here. Helped resolve disputes or contributed to group efforts over time. Keywords here: leadership experience. Leadership does not have to be you're president of this club or you're president of that club, or you are the captain of a team. Leadership is a set of characteristics. You can Google and see what is commonly agreed as characteristics of a leader. So don't get hung up and don't skip this one, because you are, all of you that I've worked with, I know you are leaders, and I know you are demonstrating leadership qualities in your various activities. This can take so many different forms. It's how you mentor younger students. It's how you lead group projects or take the lead on lab reports. It's how you communicate with your peers and present ideas and encourage them to complete a particular project. It manifests itself. They're looking for leadership qualities, it doesn't have to be a leadership position. Okay, so that's really a really important point to know. And then they give you some a span of examples of areas where you can speak about your leadership qualities. And those are these three: positively influence others, helped resolve disputes, or contributed to group efforts over time. So break that down and think about where you have positively influenced others. Maybe you coach young kids in the sport that you're involved in. That's positively influencing others. So you could speak to that. What does that look like? What do you do? What are the actions that you take that positively influences others? So that's one component. Or you can speak to your leadership qualities, your leadership characteristics, where if you have examples of helping to resolve disputes, and that can be disputes in the classroom, in your family, in a club, on the playing field or the court. That can look like many different, almost unlimited, right? Different not opportunities, but that could look very differently for each of you. So that is another way that you can, that's another area that you can talk about your leadership qualities. And then thirdly, contributing to group efforts over time. So this would be a third area that you maybe have demonstrated leadership qualities. The key with this third area is over time. So how have you, over a period of months or maybe even years, what have you contributed to whatever group it is that you wanted, that you talk about? So you can tackle this by focusing on the positively influencing others, or the helping resolve disputes, or the contributing to group efforts over time. And I would say there's to pick one, because again, 350 words is such a short amount of space. You want to give them a lot of examples and a lot of detail. So best to focus on one of the three areas. Okay, let's move on to number 2. Every person has a creative side, and it can be expressed in many ways: problem solving, original and innovative thinking, and artistically, to name a few. Describe how you express your creative side. So just like the first prompt, where you don't need to be captain or head of this or president of that, the second one is saying that everybody does have a creative side. So you want to spend some time thinking about what activities do I have an opportunity to show my creativity? And they've given you some examples. Maybe you can consistently problem solve in creative ways. Maybe your creativity, I have one student who happens to have access to a 3D printer, wants to be an engineer, and he's constantly creatively designing and printing on the 3D printer things that his family can use, that he can use, his friends at school can use, like, just very creative. And so he uses this tool that allows him this outlet for his creativity. I have other students who are actual artists. whether it's drawing or painting or dancing or singing or acting. I shouldn't have said actual artists. Scratch the actual part. They are traditional artists in that when people think, oh, I'm not creative, and I'm right in that camp, I don't often think that I'm creative. I say that because I'm not a singer, a dancer, an actor, a painter, a sculptor, that sort of fine art or performance art side of creativity. However, as the UC is trying to get you to expand your definition of creativity, there again are so many ways that you can demonstrate how you do have a creative side. So you just need to spend some time thinking about, am I creative in, go through your different extracurriculars. Do I demonstrate creativity in this one or in that one? Do I demonstrate creativity maybe in how I approach solving math problems or chemistry problems or completing biology labs, or whatever that looks like for you? Go beyond the fine arts, the performing arts, and think of ways that you indeed do express your creative side. UCs want to know. Okay, I'm so sorry. Let me go back. Whoa, my bad. Sorry, guys. Okay, so I'll stop touching the mouse. Number 3, what would you say is your greatest talent or skill? And then very importantly, how have you developed and demonstrated that talent over time? Well, I know that each of you have at least what I consider to be a tremendous talent or skill. You may or may not see that same talent or skill in yourself. This is often very hard for students to look at themselves and go, yep, I am really good at that. And yet the college responses, the college essays, the college writing assignments demand of you that you are self-reflective and you do some bragging. You've got to do some humble bragging throughout the college application process. This is an example of a prompt that wants to hear some humble brag from you. So once you've identified, maybe your parents can chime in, on this one with you, but once you've identified what you believe is your greatest talent or skill, then what this prompt requires is that you speak to how you have developed that skill or that talent over time, and then how you've demonstrated that talent over time. I'll give you an example of a student I worked with last year. So she was a dancer. She danced ballet for many, many, many years, and then high school years was more of a the style of dancing is leaving me, but she was a creative dancer. What is that called, guys? Not free form, but okay, for the dancers in the room, bear with me. But anyways, her style of dancing shifted. But she did continue her ballet training. And bottom line is, over the years, beginning from when she was little, and then throughout high school, she went to many ballet academies. She trained in a ballet dance studio. She even competed in some dance competitions, and up through the summer before senior year, she was attending very selective dance programs for weeks at a time. And I say that because not that you have to, talk about something at that competitive or high of a level. Like, that's not the point of my story. The point of my story is that ultimately her PIQ talked about the different programs that she participated in year after year and how she grew in her dancing skills through participation, through applying for and then participating in these programs. So she showed from basically, early young years through middle school, elementary, middle school, high school. She talked about the many different ways that she developed this particular talent or skill that she had. And she then talked about how she used her talent in dance and her skill, how she worked with developmentally and physically disabled kiddos to teach them, to instill in them her love of dance and what that looked like. And so it was a wonderful story in 350 words. She, couldn't do a lot of name dropping, right? Because she's only got 350 words, but she was able to speak to this long period of time that she did all of this work focusing on developing her talent and skills. And she demonstrated that through, yes, competitions, but also through pouring into young people that physically would never be, prima ballerinas, but would still be able to move and enjoy have joy through the movement of dance. So that is just one of many, many examples. I can give you literally hundreds, but anyways, that's what they're after here, is the development of that skill or talent and demonstrating that talent over time. So you might want to underline or put in bold or circle over time. That is crucial. All right, 4. Describe how you have taken advantage of a significant educational opportunity or worked to overcome an educational barrier you have faced. Okay, so this is one or the other. So you've either had a significant educational opportunity and you want to write about that, or you've worked to overcome an educational barrier that you have faced. So I would draw a line and, give yourself a column or whatever, or just circle the one that you think you would have you would have an experience to talk about. Examples of significant educational opportunities. Honestly, it's what is significant to you. But in the past, I've seen students talk about the school that they go to. Maybe they go to a school that has an academy where they could focus on their passion, their area of interest. They could be, it could be an art academy. It could be an engineering academy. It could be health sciences pre-med or business academy. Those are all educational opportunities. So you would talk about what that looks like, why you chose it, so on and so forth. Other educational opportunities. Maybe you had an opportunity to travel with your family or on your own, or I don't know, with grandparents, whatever. But travel is absolutely an educational opportunity. We could talk about that. The number of, maybe you go to a school that has just tons of AP or IB classes. You know, they have APs and or IB curriculum, and you participate in that. That's an educational opportunity. Maybe you took a community college class. Maybe you signed up for Coursera courses over, you know, this summer or multiple summers or whenever. Those are all educational opportunities. So again, think outside the box on this one, and it doesn't just have to be in the confines of, you know, your classrooms at your school. So lots of things can be educational opportunities. The second one, and or is important here. Some of my students have learning disabilities, and a learning disability can very much be an educational barrier. So if that applies to you, this could be the PIQ that you would use to talk about what your learning disability is, how it affects you in the classroom, and super importantly, overcome, circle that word, overcome. What steps have you taken to learn how to manage or overcome the learning disability, right? So they want to see, okay, I ran up into this brick wall, but I wasn't going to let the brick wall prevent me from earning, from learning, and from having an education. So here are the steps that I took to break down and go through that brick wall. So that is what they're looking for with this particular PIQ. Okay, moving on. Number 5, describe the most significant challenge you have faced and the steps you have taken to overcome this challenge. How has this challenge affected your academic achievement? So all of you have faced challenges. Even though you're only 16, 17, whichever, everyone's had challenges in their life. And the important piece of this question is that second sentence. How has this challenge affected your academic achievement? So if you've had a challenge that has affected your academic achievement, that's what you want to write on. If you've had challenges in your life, but it, for whatever reason, did not adversely impact your academic achievement, then this personal insight question would not be applicable to you. So, right, you just skip over it. But if you have had a significant challenge that did affect your academic achievement, say for example, you had I share a lot of past student stories because hopefully that resonates with you, not that you've had the same experience, but you can see how it might be developed for you. So I had a student a couple years ago who had excruciating back pain. They were basically bedridden for a year while they and their parents tried to find medical solutions. They had to do school from home. They had to, they were unable to, join friends and physically go to school. So it was very isolating, horrible pain, just really significant challenge, right? Well, fortunately, the person's parents finally found a surgeon that recommended a particular procedure. The procedure was done, and miraculously, the pain was totally gone. So then the student talked about all of that in a couple of sentences, introduced the challenge. The focus of their response was the steps that they took to overcome the challenge. Once they had physical healing, then they had to work on the emotional healing and the psychological healing and being behind academically, reintroducing themselves physically to their high school campus, re-engaging with their peers and their teachers. And so the personal insight question was the majority was about those steps that they took to overcome. So I think that's the second time we've seen that word overcome. I'd have to look back. Maybe it's even the third time. So when you see something that's been repeated, you know it's important to the UCs. So they're definitely looking for how students went from a really negative situation and how they were able to work through it, grow from it, get to the other side, if you will. And remember, it goes back to why are we even asking these personal insight questions? What is this all about? Well, if you remember this bullet, UCs are looking for evidence you'll be successful in college and beyond. There's a saying that I'm sure you've all heard, what doesn't kill us makes us stronger. You may or may not agree, but think of it from a strengthening, position or point of view. For those of you that are athletes, you know that time in the weight room over time is going to make you stronger. Time practicing your sport is going to make you stronger. The same is for people that have experienced a challenge and overcome it. You grow stronger through the process of overcoming the challenge. So that's what's happening with this prompt, and that's what the UCs want to know, because they know that if you have overcome a significant challenge, that you will have many of the characteristics and the strength of character to be successful in college, and specifically at one of their campuses. College is hard. These are not going to be cakewalk classes. Even if you're taking AP, you indeed will be challenged in college. The whole point of going. So they want to know that you're up for the challenge. Okay, so that's what this one's all about. All right, let's move on. So the next one, think about an academic subject that inspires you. Describe how you have furthered this interest, underline this next part, inside and or outside of the classroom. So all of you know that I have, over the many months we worked together, shared all sorts of programs and ideas about how you can explore your academic area of interest beyond the walls right? Beyond the footprint, beyond the classroom of your high school. And whatever that looks like, however you pursued that, this is what they want to know about in this PIQ. So you want to also focus your conversation, your response here to a single subject, so that if you're going to apply as an engineering major, they want to know what you've done to further your interest in engineering inside and or outside of the classroom. If you are pursuing being a business major or a whatever major, right? That's an academic subject, and they want to know what you've done to further your interest inside and or outside of the classroom. If you have not had the opportunity to pursue that area of interest outside of the classroom, that's okay. You will not be less competitive than students that have. And that's why they say and/or. So if there's no and for you, then focus on the classes that you have taken that have developed that skill set that that will help you be a successful engineer or a successful marketing major or a successful English major or a successful mathematics major, whatever that looks like. Yeah, I had one student last year who, for a variety of reasons, had virtually no extracurriculars. I just, just really not anything. And there were, a lot of reasons for that. However, they went to a school where there was the International Baccalaureate or IB curriculum. And that's what they poured their time, their effort, their, blood, sweat, and tears into. And over the course of the high school years, they ended up with all A's in this IB curriculum, which was just crazy hard. However, because they were able to speak to what they did within that IB curriculum to pursue the academic subject that inspired them, which happened to be physics. I know, crazy, right? Like, I couldn't relate, but it was great. They did a great job. That was their passion. Ultimately want to be an astrophysicist and teach in college. Like, that's their long-term goal. They talked about their in-classroom experience and how they just were all in and what they learned and how they grew their skills and their strengths and so on and so forth. So I share that again so that you don't think, oh, I haven't signed up for 2, 3, 5, 20 outside of the classroom experiences. It's not necessary. You do, however, have to, if you write on this subject, really dig deep into your in-classroom experiences and talk about that and how that has helped you further your academic subject. Okay, 7, what have you done to make your school or community a better place? This is short and sweet, and yet has produced a lot of powerful personal insight questions over the years. These PIQs, by the way, they have been in place. They've been the same for, going on, I think this will be the 7th, maybe 8th year. They're very successful. that the UCs, changed their whole college essay process almost a decade ago, and the prompts have remained the same. So we know that it elicits, it gets responses from students that really allow students to share who they are, share their experiences, and how those experiences will help them be successful on UC campuses. So, yeah, all the thought and planning that went into developing these prompts, these continue to just really be very, very helpful tools for the UCs. What the UCs also find, and I find in my own practice, is that out of all the seniors that I'll work with, of the 8 prompts, all the seniors will choose a totally different group of 4. So that is also reflective of the variety of options that these PIQs offer you. You won't end up sounding like, the 20 applications before you or the 20 applications after you. These prompts are written in such a way that if you do indeed share the detail that I will tease out of you through this process, you will stand out and have an opportunity to shine to the readers of your application. Okay, so back to prompt 7. What have you done to make your school or your community a better place? So this would be where you would talk about whatever you have done in either your school, maybe through sports, maybe being part of an athletic team is how you made your school a better place. Maybe you are part of a club, some organization on campus, whether you founded it or you joined it, and hopefully now you're in a position of leadership or whatever that looks like for you, right? On campus, something that is an activity that you do that is primarily related and takes place on your high school campus, or your community. And community, I again need you to think beyond the city that you live in. Your community can be any group that you are part of. It can be your family. Your family is a community, a small community of people. So, but that you can talk about that. How do you contribute to your family? I had a young, well, they're all young. You're all young. I had a student last year who had extensive, and we're talking extensive, family responsibility. Without giving the whole scenario, bottom line is she had a baby sister. So here she was, age 15, 16, 17, doing an extensive amount of care for her little sister. And she was able to talk about how she grew in character, how these responsibilities, how she handled them, the skills that she developed as a result, and then, what that looked like and how that helped her family community. So that's community. It can be the city that you live in. It can be the state that you live in. It can be a particular group. It can be your faith community. So if you belong to a congregation, a church, a synagogue, whatever, community. So you can talk about how you, what you've done to make that a better place. It can be a community, can be a group of people that you identify with. For example, if you're part of, say, an LGBTQ organization, or whether that's on campus, off campus, or whatever, that might be your community, and you might want to, you could talk about that. So it could, my little dancer that I talked about before, for community of dancers, right? That's community. So anyway, those are all different examples of how you can approach this particular PIQ. Rather than get focused on perhaps the traditional understanding of community being our neighborhood or our city. Okay. So then the last one, this one is great fun, kind of not. Beyond what has already been shared in your application, what do you believe makes you a strong candidate for admission to the University of California? So this fun little, what seems like kind of a catch-all PIQ is not a catch-all. This has to be approached strategically. So this is basically where, if you were to respond to this one, you would need to complete your UC application first, which, because it does not open until August 1st, and you're all going to be part of a webinar that I'm offering on, I believe, let me tell you, hopefully you have it on, you all have it on your schedule. August 10th is when we're doing the UC application completion boot camp. So over Zoom, I'm going to go to the UC application website. I'm going to be a pretend student, and I'm going to complete it with you online, and you're going to do it, from home. Once you've completed that application, then you can look back and see, what doesn't the UC know about me after sharing all this information? For those of you that are going through the WOW writing method, that's going to sound familiar, because one of the steps that you have to do in the WOW 10-step writing process is, what do you want the reader, the admissions officer, what do you want colleges to know about you, right? They're going to know about your achievements from all of your activities, from your courses and grades, but they're not going to know about your characteristics. So you have to tell them. This prompt is great to speak about those characteristics that there was just no other place, no other PIQ that allowed you to share that. I'll keep using what I've been doing. Another student example had a young person who was whose family was well, she had grown up in a different country. So she spent her elementary years in another country, and then right at the beginning of middle school, her family came to the United States. She has dual citizenship, all that great stuff. And her family every year, each summer, would travel back to the country that she grew up in, and other countries throughout Europe. So she had a lot of international travel. She had a lot of understanding, a lot of respect for, a lot of acceptance for different cultures, different value systems, different belief systems, and she wanted to communicate to the UC this, how she believed this was a really important character of her, and how that would make her a strong candidate for the UC. That's what she wrote about. Again, I have many, many different examples. So this one just requires that you think about what it is that you want these colleges to know. Have you been able to communicate that anywhere else in the application? And if you haven't, this is the prompt that you would use to communicate that. So again, as we work through the WOW writing method, this prompt will resonate with you so much more, because it's one of the steps that you will actually go through. Okay, so if it still sounds a little fuzzy, don't worry, it won't over the next many weeks. Okay, let me see. I don't have any questions so far, so I'm just going to keep talking. All right, so then I want to share with you tips, essentially, of how you go about presenting yourself through these personal insight questions. So the first one, hopefully, is pretty obvious, but as I work with students, I find that sometimes students feel like they often think there are some prompts that by which they can, sort of get the winning lottery ticket, that some prompts are better than others. That's absolutely not true. All 8 prompts carry equal weight. It's how you respond to them and the detail that you include and the information you include that gives you that winning ticket. So you should answer the questions that are most applicable to you through brainstorming all 8 that you see, and you and I will talk about it one-on-one as well, because I can help you identify, wow, that these are the 4 that we would both agree will give you the best opportunity to tell the UC about yourself. So don't think that there's, one or a combination of 4 prompts that are better than others, because that is not true. Okay. Number 2, these are personal insight questions. They're about you. Sometimes there is another character in your story that is key to setting up what happened. So if you're talking about who inspired your, let's see. So maybe you would want to talk about who inspired your academic passion. Maybe you have had a student last year who wanted to study economics. They just happen to have a family friend who is a relatively famous economist, and the parents invited that person over for dinner, and my student and this economist had a amazing conversation, and the economist offered to continue the conversation and to serve as a bit of a mentor to my student. So that person, that original meeting, and that individual was, yes, part of the student's story, but the story absolutely had to, 99% of it had to be about the student and all of that. The famous economist was not going to get him admitted to the UC. It was what this student did through that meeting and what he learned and how that inspired him and how he was encouraged to then learn about this, that, and the other, and take these different classes, and right, so on and so forth. So just remember that you can talk about your parents or your grandparents or a friend as you're introducing your story, but they just need to be, you know, a passing, a very brief, a very brief moment within what you write. The vast rest of it needs to be about you. So these PIQs, and I'm going to share another screen in a minute, but you absolutely want to write in the first person. Often in school, you do more third person kind of writing. That is not the case for your college essays. It's absolutely not the case for the personal insight questions. These need to be first person. You want to use the word I a lot, even if it makes you feel uncomfortable, again, because you're bragging or whatever. You just got to get over it. The third bullet, this is not a college essay. This is a response to a question that the UCs encourage students to think about how you would respond to somebody if you were in an interview. So if you were applying for a job and someone asked the question, let's go back. If you were applying for a job and someone asked the question, tell me about the most significant challenge you have faced and the steps you have taken to overcome this challenge. You wouldn't say, you would respond in the, I was challenged by X, I did this and that and the other that helped me learn how to manage that emotion or that, you know, physical challenge or that learning disability or the whatever it is. So if as you are writing these, you're thinking about how you would respond to a person sitting in front of you, that will help you get your PIQ to the tone much faster. So you have to put much of what you learned about writing essays in your English class on the back burner. Leave that for English. These are totally different animals, and so we're going to be tackling them in very different ways. Okay, fourth bullet, the admissions officers that read your application, the UC readers, they want to learn what you did and why. What you learned and how you applied what you learned to aspects of your life. So you're telling them, you're learning about theme, the importance of theme when as you begin working with me in the WOW 10-step writing method. And theme is what happened and why does it matter? Often what I will get from a student in the first draft is all about the what happened. And it might be gloriously detailed and you know, written just beautifully, but the student never gets to the, so what? Why does it matter? So for this, again, you might want to underline or circle or run a highlighter over why. And what did you, how did you apply what you learned? You have to tell the UC reader not just what happened, but why is it important? Why should they care about this information that you're sharing with them? Okay, the fifth one, students should use the I statements. I did this, I chose to do that, I learned about. This is your opportunity to make sure that the UCs get to know you. So I covered that already. And then here's the link that I promised. Again, I'm going to share this document with you so you'll be able to copy it and put it into a browser. But the UC has several pages as that you can access through this website that further discuss the personal insight question. And they break it down by question, and you will, as if you go to this and you're reading through it, you'll remember that, oh, Mrs. Royal talked about that. She talked about that. She talked about that, right? That's because I've been teaching this for a lot of years and these PIQs haven't changed. I do go to training every year, even though year after year, it's much the same, but I still go every year. The UC has counselor training on the personal insight questions. It is the most massively attended webinars that they offer in any of their training. So counselors just really want to help their students get this right. It's very, very important to your application, because this is where the difference of you versus the other students that they just read an application from. PIQs is where that difference is really going to shine through. So they're very important. Okay, so there's that. Let me see if I can share another document with you. Here we go. Okay, hopefully everybody can see this. UC personal application question tip. This is directly from the UC High School Counselor Conference that I just shared with you that I attend every year. It's usually offered in late September, right before opening day of the UC application, the first day that you can submit UC application. I'll pause there a little bit and let me share with you the timing of the UC application. So the UC application itself for your year, you will be applying this fall for fall 2025, right? So you apply at the beginning of senior year for the following fall. The application itself opens on August 1st. On August 1st, you can log in to the UC application website. You can create an account and you can begin entering in your information. So for those of you that have already been working on completing your common application with me, you'll see that it's pretty much all the same stuff. They might ask it a little differently. They want to know a lot about your California residency, stuff like that, but a lot of the same information. So you've already answered a lot of those questions. They will be very familiar to you. But that all starts on August 1st. You cannot submit your application, however, until October 1st. So a couple years ago, the UC, students were just chomping at the bit, and especially students that are working with private counselors or that knew enough to get an early start. They wanted to start a lot earlier on the application completion before October 1st. So the UCs, again, several years ago, gave them an additional 2 months. So for August and September, you can work on completing the application. The first day you can submit your application is October 1st. The last day you can submit it is November 30th. November 30th, except for COVID year, has always been the deadline for the UC application. They use a single application for all 9 campuses. With that single application, you can apply to all 9 or any number of the UCs that you want to. There is an application fee for every campus, $80 per campus. So if you apply to 3 campuses, that's going to set you back $240. If you apply to 5 campuses, going to be $400. I'll let you do the math, right? It's a lot of money, but that's how the UC application works. My goal is to get the application as completed as possible before October 1. And then we sit with it a bit. We don't need to be the first one to submit. You get 0 brownie points. There is no advantage to submitting on that first day. It's not first in, first out. They just don't do it that way. They give you this window of time and you submit. We want to make sure that your application has all the information it needs. The personal insight questions are as complete and well written and polished and all of that as possible, that your activities are detailed. They have all the information that we want. And it's that final polishing that we will do over several meetings to make sure that it is, in great shape. And then when we are done with that, then you'll submit. You will all submit long before the November 30th deadline, at least if I have my way and you follow my lead, which you all do. So we're good there. Okay, so that's kind of the timing of the UC application overall. And now back to the personal insight question. So here are some bullet points that I've gathered over the years of, again, the why, the PIQs, how you should tackle these, that kind of thing. So I'll just let you scan through that. Most of this I've already covered. Let's see. This have multiple people review. I should have deleted that. I need to delete that. I don't want you to have multiple people review it. You and I will go through every one of your applications with a fine-tooth comb. And it's important that if you do share your application with anyone, parents included, it's not that it's not a secret. I'm not trying to have you withhold anything from anyone. It's that as you're beginning to see college applications, college essays, all of these components are unique one-off compared to English assignments or most anything that other well-meaning adults in your life have experience with. So if you do choose to share your application or your PIQs with others, make sure that it's in a final stage, and if there's any significant changes that someone is recommending you make, please run it by me first. I'm not saying I'm infallible and I might have missed something, but that's rare, and because we do go through it painstakingly slow by blow, field by field, to the point where you're going to be like, oh my gosh, Mrs. Royal, can you just go faster? No, because we want to make sure that the UC reader and whoever's reading your Common App has no questions. We want to answer all their questions, get it right, so that they can either admit you or unfortunately deny you. But you don't want to go into the stack that's like, well, I didn't even know what the student was talking about here. What do they mean? What are they doing with their classes here? That doesn't make sense. So then they put you in the I have a lot of questions pile. You don't want to be in that pile, because then you're not getting a nice clean review at the very beginning. Okay, so just draw a line to that. Okay, the rest I think is all pretty basic stuff. Okay, so let's go back to my presentation and come here. All right, I shared this at the very beginning just to recap. Out of the 8 available, you have to respond to 4. And there is a 350 word maximum for each. I recommend that you do not repeat information that you've shared elsewhere in the UC application, and a reiteration that all questions are equal. Okay, I had a question. Is the UC High School Counselor Conference accessible anywhere, or to non-counselors? No, unfortunately. You have to be a counselor in order to sign up, and it's during the school day, or during the work day. I devote a whole day to going to different sessions, and it's actually kind of expensive. It costs me money to attend, but that's a business expense, obviously. So I'm happy to do so. And yeah, and I bring all my learning to you guys. Post-COVID, it's actually pretty nice because we used to have to go to kind of far-flung places in the state to attend the all-day conference. So sometimes you would have to stay in the hotel and you'd have all these additional expenses. Even if it was more local and you could drive there in a day, I mean, it was all day for sessions that maybe weren't of importance to my practice and my students. Now, post-COVID, they have an online version. And when I pay for that, I can attend the sessions that I want to attend, but I get a recording of all the other sessions. So then I can be one person and be everywhere at once. So it's pretty nice. It worked out well. But good question, good question. Okay, I have one more. Let me see if that's something I can cover. Let's chat off. I'm not sure what you mean by list. Is this list printable? If you meant this one, if this is the list that you meant, yes, I have uploaded this to your custom college plan account. I just did it this morning, so let's see if I can show you guys real quick what that looks like. Bear with me. Oh, you know what? Here, can I do it this way? I think I can do it this way. No, you know, it's a little tricky, guys, because I can't do it without showing you an actual student account, and that is not good or ethical. So I'm not going to. But suffice it to say, if you guys log in to your custom college plan account, you know, let me do, sorry, I don't mean to bumble. Let me do it a different way. Let me add it to my account. Bear with me, guys. Sorry. We want to add. Oh, I know what I'm doing. Okay, sorry. We'll get there. Is this where I am? There I am. I'm going to graduate in 2030 from high school. What do you think about that? Pretty impressive. Okay, so now I can add 5. Okay, we're getting there. We're getting there. I'll add this one. Done. Okay, so if I log in as me, all right, let me share my screen and make sure that you can all be on the same page that I am on. So we're all there together. Okay, so hopefully everybody can see this is mine, Janice Royal, custom college plan. So what you want to do is go to your menu and click on Files, and then from Files from Counselors, scroll down to this one, UC Personal Insight Questions, and this is the UC High School Counselor Conference document that one of the students was just asking about. This is the last document that I was sharing. Presenting yourself on the UC application. This is, again, from a conference. This is images of a slide, couple of slides that the UCs shared with counselors. This WOW method PIQ pre-brainstorm task, that's what we're going to cover next in this webinar. And then here's a copy of the UC personal insight questions, all 8. Okay, so now you have hopefully all that you need to get started on your UC PIQs when it is time. It's not quite time for you to get started. So let's go back to the presentation. Okay, so next is pre-brainstorm task. I have to move this menu bar. I should know how to do this. Here, let me minimize it. Go away. Okay, here we go. You guys are so patient with me. I appreciate it. All right, so I have 3 tasks for you as you get to the point where you're going to be working on your UC personal insight questions. I would like to recommend that you wait to work on your personal insight questions until after you have completed your personal statement for the common application. And there's several reasons for that. One is because through writing your personal statement for the common application, that's where you're going to learn about the WOW writing method, which a key factor in that writing method is learning about theme. Theme is made up of 2 pieces. What happens? Why is it important? Your PIQs need to answer those questions as well. So I would recommend just waiting until you learn about the WOW writing method and actually experience it, and then this won't seem as strange and kind of awkward. Okay, so that's my recommendation. All right, the other reason is because the Common App, since most of you have filled out a lot of it, some of you, I had one student here, we completed the whole darn thing yesterday. It was awesome. And so anyways, yeah, you've already done a ton of work on your Common App. So that is where you begin to see what is it that the admissions officers already know about me, right? All that detail that's in your Common App that will also go into your UC application. That's what they already know. Your PIQs is where you want to use this space to tell them what they don't know about you. Okay, so this is basically a layout. You can create this. This is just a really sort of inelegant table that I created and dropped into this document. So I just did a 5x2 table, right, from Word. You can do it however you want. If you want to work in Google Sheets, whatever your platform is, that's fine. But you want to identify the essays that you've already written. So by the time you get to your PIQs, it's probably going to just be that Common App personal statement that you've written. And just include a brief description of the essay. What's your anchor story? Again, that's the term that you'll learn about through the WOW writing method. Importantly, what characteristics does that essay convey? In this case, the example is I care about my community. And then the 4th column, which UC PIQ might fit? Well, in this example, number 7, what have you done to make your school or community a better place, would be the best PIQ for the student to respond to. If you remember my examples about a student with a learning disability, there's a couple of different UC prompts where a student who has a learning disability could speak to that. They could talk about how they overcame an academic challenge, or, which, was what, number 4, I think, or they can talk about the one, number 5, where, discuss a challenge that you had to overcome. What steps did you take to overcome it? So on and so forth. So that's why this is a column, because possibly what you talked about in your Common App or other essays could work to answer multiple UCPIQ. Okay, and then the last one, how would you modify the original to fit? Well, as I stated, the Common App personal statement is 650 words. The UCPIQ needs to be very short, much shorter, just kind of short and sweet, right? So you'd have to edit it to fit the word limit and focus on making sure that you've answered the question, what you've done to make your community a better place. So just a table that you can create to help you sort of lay out what you might want to do. Again, this is pre-brainstorm. This is what you would do before you and I would meet about brainstorming your PIQ. Okay, so then the second task would be to include any additional characteristics you want to illustrate. So maybe from this essay, you see that the essay had the characteristic of I care about my community, but maybe in that essay, or there's additional characteristics highlighted, or maybe you want to talk about additional characteristics using this particular UC prompt. So again, just jot them down so that that will help guide you as to what detail you're going to include about your example. Okay. One important an additional important factor that, again, sorry to sound repetitive, but as you go through the WOW writing method, you will learn all of your stories need to be recent. You want to focus on your high school years, preferably closer to now. But if that story, happened in early high school, and then you talk, maybe there was an event that happened early in high school, and then you share detail about the subsequent 2 years after that, kind of, how you grew, how things changed, what skills you gained, whatever that looks like. That's great, right? Because that talks about over time. But just remember, they want to know who you are today and how you're going to contribute and be successful in college on their campus in just, less than a year. So they need to know kind of where you are now. Stories from your childhood, again, only as maybe they introduce that you took your first acting class when you were 5. And that's all you say about that, right? Then you keep going and bring the reader to the current stuff. So that's what I mean by making sure that your examples are recent. Okay, and then I gave you some samples here. One sample. So if you wanted to communicate the fact, the characteristic that you are a problem solver, here's an example. When I attended the robotics competition, one of our best teammates got sick. I stepped in and took care of the task he is usually responsible for. Well, great. That could talk about, be the introduction to you talking about your creative side in problem solving. So obviously the PIQ would then need to go into detail as to what tasks you did do and what is that? How did you bring creativity into that? So I think you get the gist at this point. Okay, so then what I have laid out here is based on your notes from tasks 1 and 2, which 4 PIQs do you think you will answer, and what stories could you share for each? So again, this is just a table. There should be a line in between here. Sorry, my skills in adding the table failed here, but hopefully you're all much better at this. So anyways, you would have a table, there'd be some lines here, and you'd fill in the PIQ that you are feeling most drawn to answering, the story idea that you would be focusing on, and then importantly, what characteristics will that story tell the reader about you. So those are the 3 brainstorming tasks. Again, I have all of these in your custom college plan, so they're there for you. So we'll talk offline about specific story ideas that you might have. The question was, could I talk about the transition before high school? And the answer is yes. The summer before high school is considered your rising freshman. So that's considered to be part of your high school experience. That would need to be introduced minimally. That would be the opening sentence or 2 about ultimately what you're going to speak to. So for example, I went to a private faith-based school, K through 8, small classes, never had more than 5 people, or maybe I was homeschooled, kindergarten through 8th grade. And then my family moved in 9th grade. I went to an enormous public high school. That would be an example of how you would introduce an earlier experience. Then you would spend the rest of the PIQ speaking to how you adapted. Hopefully you did, but this isn't the student's example. So I mean, that's kind of a crazy one, but maybe it happened. Anyways, the student would then spend the time speaking to how they adapted, what skills they gained, how they grew, what they learned about themselves, and how that's prepared them to step onto a big college campus and be successful. So that's how you can look backwards to something that happened right the summer before high school. Okay, hopefully that answered your question. All right, so I told you we would get out here much sooner than the 3 hours. Yay, it's 10:30, so that's right about the time that I thought I would be able to get through the material that I have prepared. So let me wrap up by telling you what the next steps are. So the next steps for all of my students are to complete your personal statement with me. We're going to be using the while writing method, as I've shared with you. I have had one student complete the entire process, and their feedback was, you're going to think it's cheesy, but their feedback was, wow, that was so much. That was not scary. That was not stressful. That was so much easier than I thought it was going to be. There was a lot of trepidation that this student had before writing their college essay. But with this process, it just broke it down and took that fear and that trepidation and that anxiety and put it to rest. So it's a fantastic process. I'm just so thrilled to be bringing it to you guys this year. You're very fortunate, class of 2025. So anyways, we're going to get you through that. You're going to write your personal statement that you're going to use for your common application first. Then, as soon as you're done with that, I'd like you to do that those pre-brainstorm tasks and do some of that work and have that ready to share with me when we meet to discuss and brainstorm your UCPIQ. So as we get to the end of your personal statement, as we're getting to the final polishing stages and all that, we will schedule our very next meeting, which will probably be the next week, right? We meet a lot between now and when you submit all your applications. And that will be your UCPIQ meeting. Okay. Wow, that was a lot. That's what I wanted to share with you all today. Does anybody have any questions? You can show your face, or you can just speak up if you'd like to unmute yourself and ask the question. We have a pretty small group. There's just 11 of you. So if you'd like to ask a question, or if you're too shy, put it in chat. Whichever, just before we sign off, I'm going to give you this time to ask any questions. Anybody? No? You guys need to learn to drink coffee. You'll be more awake. All right. You know my silly sense of humor, and I'm just giving you a hard time. It's all good. You're absolutely wonderful, and I appreciate you so very much for joining me this early Saturday morning. I did have one question, Papa. Someone said thank you. You're very welcome. It was my pleasure. I hope you found this helpful, and we will meet to keep working on your essays. You know you can reach out to me anytime. Send me a text, send me a message through Custom College Plan, email me, whatever is easiest for you, but ask me questions. I hope you're all having a great, great summer. Okay, everybody, thank you. You have a great day. Bye.